States, they put in rock rubble, and under the rock rubble where there is a drain, the rock rubble arrests the water coming off the building sites or off the property, and it can channel that water so it slows that water down and it doesn't hit into our catchment area at such a pace as what we saw happen in Toowoomba only a few years ago, where the CBD actually filled up with water within a matter of hours. And that was preventable because there were developments happened where there was no stormwater detention bases put in. I will make sure that there's no more stink and that compliance with all local and state laws on the landfills and all companies control what leaves the site, be it by land, by air or by water, is clean and is no longer hazardous to people, animals, the community and the environment. So we will make sure that this happens. I know if you go out to the landfill site out there, around the perimeter of that landfill site, there is no containment for anything that may leak or come out of that site. There is no containment at all for it. And we will address that and make this a priority so that where you live in Ipswich, you don't have to put up with stink. I will address jobs as a priority, where if you live in Ipswich, you should be able to get a job in Ipswich. We will have an urgent jobs summit and a jobs expo to gather ideas and real job creation and real job opportunities. I will build an equestrian centre at Rosewood. This is a core fact of what I will do. In 2009, the Ipswich City Council said it put aside $7 million for the equestrian centre. In 2012, the state government earmarked the Rosewood area as a likely site for a world-class centre based on the horse population in the immediate catchment area. This centre would not only create jobs, but it will generate in excess of $30 million in real income to the rural communities of Ipswich every year, and this is expected to increase to over $50 million a year after 10 years. Since 2004, Ipswich has lost over $9 million in GDP from our rural sector. That's our wine industry's gone, our fruit and crops have gone, our citrus crops have gone, and all this cropping has gone, all the small crops have gone. Vegetables, fruit and veggies have just been devastated by a lack of policy of the council to look after this industry. With the equestrian industry, we look at it as that it's an industry that can grow very quickly because we have one of the largest resources in Ipswich of feed. A lot of farmers grow a lot of feed for a lot of stock and cattle, and this is already here. So if we create this additional industry through the equestrian centre, we can actually feed back into the community and get the community to grow for another industry that we've created here. So we've actually doubled up on our jobs. I will build a second Bremer Bridge, and I have high confidence that I could have the foundations of the bridge commenced before 2020. I say I have high confidence. In 2016, we had really high confidence that we could have done it before 2020 actually had the bridge across the river. There are some different complications now because the council has actually forgiven over $34 million in debt from one of its companies. That is ratepayers' money that is worth around about 21 to 22% of the rates collected from private homes in Ipswich. So they've just thrown this money away. That is half the cost of what it would have cost me to build the Bremer Street Bridge. And so the money was there when we said it in 2016. In 2017, we hope the money is still there and that we can find this money to build this bridge. And we're looking at a bridge that is around about a third of the cost of what the proposed Norman Street Bridge was, which we found to be totally unfunded, had spent millions of dollars on doing fancy videos and drawings and false studies and everything else, and it never amounted to anything. And that was absolutely disgusting how the waste of money happened. I will bring back the historical aspects of the CBD and make Ipswich great again. I will not just say it, I will do it, and this is my promise. And it will not take me 15 years to complete it. I will have it completed in 2020. I will not be selling the existing council buildings. And if I do get elected, I will look at what the current contracts are, and I will be doing all I can to save the ratepayers from having to pay rent for a building they should own. I noticed we got a letter from the local government minister's office the other day that said Ipswich City Council is going to do a valuation on Ipswich City Properties assets. Ipswich City Properties are going to do a valuation on their assets, and they're going to negotiate a deal where Ipswich City Council buys Ipswich City Property assets. Well, hang on. So since 2009, we come back to a deal where we should have had it in the first place instead of wasting $128 million. Because that's what happened, is that they set up a company and now the company's going to sell the assets back to Ipswich City Council. Why didn't that happen why did we have to have this company in the beginning, and why did we have to have it at all if the end result is that Ipswich City Council ends up having to buy back the assets that they should have owned? And when you look at the funding of it, Ipswich City Properties actually owes more to the Ipswich ratepayer than what the assets are currently worth on their books. So we want to clean up Ipswich, and deals like this are not good for people. You go out, you earn all your money, you work hard to earn your money, you work hard to pay your rates, you work hard to have a good living, and this money is just flushed down the toilet. It's not going to happen under an administration of Gary Duffy. I will flood protect the city. Flood protection is an engineered process where all the flow rates, the impacts are contemplated and built into the system. A lot of people say, well, it's just putting up a barrier. It's not putting up a barrier, right? A flood protection system that works with the flow of the water across the land and the environment. It's not just building a wall. By flood protecting Ipswich, I promise that by 2020 I will have at least 1,500 properties flood protected by 2020, and the cost of this is very minimal. When I had a look at it, cost of flood protecting 450 homes is less than the cost of fixing that one of those 450 homes after a flood. So to protect 450 homes costs less than the cost to fix one home after a flood. So that's what we look at, and we need to look at that. And I have no idea how council can be so negligent to the people of Ipswich to allow some of this development to happen in flood zones. I will bring back true value to living in Ipswich, where your lifestyle is a priority over the profits of developers. It is a time to clean up Ipswich. And too long, the profits of developers have been put first over the priority of the lifestyle of the people of Ipswich. I am pro-sport. A lot of people know me. I'm nearly 61 years old. I'm 60 now. I played my last game of rugby when I was 50. Right, so I've always been playing sport. I've been in motorsport my whole life. I've always raced cars, been involved in cars, fixed cars, modified cars, done something cars. So I'm right into motorsport. I know motorsport back to front. I've been a coaching director, and I've coached rugby league and rugby union. I've also coached athletics. So I know what sport means to young people and how much value it brings to young people when young people know that they can compete on a field in a discipline and be just as good as the rest of the world. in what they do, but be recognised for it. So I will bring forward plans to build an international standard athletics complex where all athletics have the best facilities to train and compete. At the moment, we have hodgepodge, at best, training facilities where people are training on grass tracks and then expected to compete on a synthetic track. The bounce out synthetic track is totally different to a grass track, and you cannot train on a grass track if you want to compete on a synthetic track because your running style is totally different. The impact through your legs and through your body is different, and we need to have those international standard facilities here. We are not a country town. We are a city of 200,000 people, and we should have international standard facilities here for our young athletics. I will build a 22,000 seat stadium at North Ipswich Oval. I said it in 2016, the numbers added up. I talked to the engineers, I talked to some of the guys who developed this stadium. They said, yes, it is possible, yes, we can do it. And we had a look at how North Ipswich Oval is set up. North Ipswich Oval needs very little groundwork. The ground is already perfect. The position of it is already perfect. The location to put the stadium around the Oval is already perfect. We've only just got to bring the stadium. And that's what we can do. We're not talking about something like the Skilled Stadium, where it cost hundreds of millions of dollars, but they had to actually rebuild the whole stadium from ground up. At North Ipswich, we don't have to do that. People of Ipswich deserve a place where they can have entertainment, they can have their grand finals at a stadium that they can be proud of. And we need to bring that to the city, and we need to have it at North Ipswich Oval. We don't need to have it out in some boondocks area out in the back blocks where a developer gets the benefit of having it beside an aged care facility. I will put in free Wi-Fi and toilets in all major parks, and I'll encourage people to be socially active and make better use of our parks